Welcome to FM Coins, the place where every coin has a voice, and every small piece of metal carries the weight of history. Today, we begin a journey that is not just about money, not just about a coin, but about a symbol that every American has held in their hand. A coin that has crossed millions of pockets, millions of stories, and millions of lives. I am talking about the Washington Quarter Dollar, a coin that is more than just 25 cents. It is a living piece of American history, a bridge that connects the birth of a nation to the modern world. Imagine holding a coin that reflects the face of George Washington, the very first president of the United States, the man who became the father of a nation, the leader who guided a struggling land into freedom. Every time someone flips this coin, spends it at a store, or adds it to a collection, they are not just using money. They are touching the legacy of the United States. On my channel, FM Coins, we will explore this quarter not as an ordinary piece of currency, but as a remarkable story carved in silver, copper, and nickel. Stay with me till the end, because this story is full of surprises, twists, and moments that will make you see the Washington Quarter in a way you never imagined before. Now we talk about the origins of the quarter itself, and how America reached the point where it decided to honor George Washington with a coin. The quarter has a history that stretches back to the late 18th century, when the very young United States had just established its mint in 1792. The Mint Act of that year was a historic moment. It gave America its own system of coinage, separate from foreign currencies that had been used before. Among the earliest coins was the quarter dollar, a denomination equal to 1/4 of a dollar, designed to make trade and daily life easier. But at that time, the design was completely different from what we see today. Instead of Washington, the early quarters carried images of Lady Liberty, a symbol of freedom and democracy. For more than a century, Lady Liberty remained the face of America's coins, changing styles and appearances, but always reminding citizens of liberty. Now we talk about the turning point in American history, when people felt it was time to honor their greatest leader. By the early 20th century, the tradition of keeping only Lady Liberty on coins was slowly fading. Other presidents like Abraham Lincoln had already appeared on coins, starting with the Lincoln Cent in 1909. This opened the doors to honoring national heroes on coinage. In 1932, America faced the bicentennial celebration of George Washington's birth, and the government wanted to honor him in a special way. At first, the idea was to create a commemorative half-dollar coin for Washington's 200th birthday. But as the plans unfolded, Congress made a bold decision. Instead of just making a one-time coin, why not redesign the quarter dollar itself and make George Washington its permanent face? This was not only symbolic but deeply meaningful, because the quarter was widely used, and millions of Americans would see Washington every day. Now we talk about how the design came into existence. A competition was announced for artists and sculptors to create Washington's portrait for the coin. The famous sculptor Laura Garden Fraser, who was already well respected, submitted a beautiful design of Washington's bust, based on the classical sculpture by Jean-Antoine Houdon. Her design was elegant, refined, and praised by many experts. But in a twist of fate, the Treasury Secretary at the time chose another artist's work, John Flanagan, whose design became the official Washington Quarter we still know today. This decision sparked debates that continue among collectors even now. Some argue Fraser's design was stronger, but history was written with Flanagan's portrait. On the obverse side, we see Washington's left-facing bust with the word "Liberty" above and the motto "In God We Trust" to the left. On the reverse side of the early quarters, an eagle stood proudly with wings spread, clutching arrows and olive branches, a symbol of America's strength and desire for peace. Now we talk about how the Washington Quarter transformed with time, because this coin is not frozen in history, it is alive, and it has passed through different eras of American life. When the first Washington quarters were struck in 1932, they were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. This gave them a bright shine, a heavy feel, and a sense of value that people could immediately recognize. In those early years, the quarter was more than just money. It was a piece of precious metal that carried real weight in your pocket. Collectors today still admire those silver quarters because they represent the classic era of American coinage, when silver was a part of daily transactions. But as we move forward in the story, we find America entering new economic challenges. After World War II, the demand for silver was rising, and the government faced increasing pressure to reduce silver usage in circulating coins. By the 1960s, the value of silver itself was climbing, so high that people began hoarding silver quarters, melting them and trading them for profit. This created a crisis because the coins were disappearing from circulation. In 1965, a historic decision was made that changed the quarter forever. The United States Mint removed silver from the coin and replaced it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. This meant the core of the coin was copper, with a thin outer layer of nickel, giving it the familiar silvery appearance. For the first time in history, the quarter was no longer a precious metal, but a base metal coin designed for mass circulation. Now we talk about how this change affected collectors and the public. Some people were disappointed because they felt the coin had lost its dignity and value. Others accepted it as a necessary step for the economy. But for collectors, this shift created a dividing line. Quarters made before 1965, with 90% silver, became highly collectible, while the clad quarters represented the modern era. Today, if you hold a pre-1965 quarter, you are not just holding 25 cents. You are holding silver worth several dollars depending on the market price. This small detail makes old quarters a hidden treasure in many coin collections. As time moved on, the Washington quarter continued to change, not just in composition but also in design. For decades, the eagle reverse remained. But by the 1970s and 1980s, new ideas were emerging. The United States wanted to use its coins not only for currency, but also as a way to celebrate culture, history, and geography. This idea reached its peak in 1999, when the U.S. Mint launched the famous 50-state quarters program. Each year, 5 different designs were released, representing each of the 50 states of America. This was a revolution in coinage. Suddenly, quarters became collectibles for ordinary people. Families, children, and collectors alike started searching their change, building albums and waiting for new designs. The Washington quarter, which had once been a simple coin, now became a national phenomenon that united the country. Now we talk about the cultural power of the quarter. Because of the state quarters program, nearly every household in America began looking at coins more carefully. It turned coin collecting into a national hobby. Some of these state quarters became rare because of minting, errors, or limited production, making them highly valuable. After the state program ended, the Mint continued with new series, such as the America the Beautiful quarters, which honored national parks and historic sites, and later the American Women Quarters program. Through all of these changes, one thing remained constant: the face of George Washington on the obverse, reminding everyone of the nation's first president. Now we talk about the value of the Washington quarter, because no coin story is complete without understanding what makes it precious today. For ordinary circulation, a quarter is just 25 cents, but for collectors, its worth can climb into hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on its year, condition, and rarity. If we go back to the earliest Washington quarters of 1932, you will find 2 special mint marks, the 1932D from Denver and the 1932S from San Francisco. These coins had very low mintages, and today they are considered key dates. Even in average condition, they can be worth several $100s. While in pristine, uncirculated grade, their value can cross thousands. These 2 coins are like the crown jewels of any Washington quarter collection. Now we talk about silver quarters, those made before 1965. Each of these coins contains 90% silver, which means their value is not only historical, but also tied to the market price of silver. Even a worn-out silver quarter has a melt value of a few dollars, and in higher grades they become even more valuable. Collectors especially look for coins with sharp details, full luster, and no wear. Some early proof issues, specially struck for collectors, can bring hundreds or even thousands at auction. But the story does not end with just old coins. The Washington Quarter series is also famous for minting errors, and these errors can turn an ordinary coin into a treasure. Double-die obverse errors, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or quarters struck on the wrong metal planchets have been discovered. Some of these error quarters have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. Imagine finding a simple quarter in your change and learning it could pay for an entire month's expenses. That is the magic of coin collecting. The modern state quarters, too, have their surprises. While billions were minted, certain rare errors like the 2004 Wisconsin extra leaf quarters became overnight sensations. People rushed to check their change, and collectors paid hundreds of dollars for a single coin. These stories remind us that every quarter has the potential to be more than its face value. Now we talk about what makes the Washington quarter so important for collectors today. It is one of the longest-running coin series in American history, starting in 1932 and continuing through many design programs. It connects the past to the present, from the classic silver issues to the modern commemorative designs. For new collectors, it offers an easy way to begin. Just look at your pocket change. For advanced collectors, it provides challenges with rare dates, high-grade coins, proofs, and errors to hunt for. And so, the Washington Quarter is not just a coin. It is a journey through American history, economy, and culture. From silver to clad, from eagles to state designs, from everyday pocket change to rare treasures worth thousands. It tells a story that continues to inspire collectors worldwide. This was the history, value, and legacy of the Washington Quarter, presented to you by FM Coins. Remember, the next time you hold a quarter in your hand, do not see it as just 25 cents. See it as a piece of history, a piece of art, and maybe even a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered.